This year I've had more transformation in my art than I have for the past 10 years. I think a lot of that is due to the fact that I had a pretty steady job for almost a year, and that plus the burnout of grinding too hard in my own personal art. Um, I was trying too hard to make products and not making art. And that led me to a period of pretty intense burnout that had been like happening for a period of years. And I never stopped to look at it. I just kept pushing through it. I don't know if that's the Capricorn in me, but I kept ignoring everything about me being burnt out as an artist. And what happened is I ended up getting a job, paid well. It was like a perfect synchronicity circumstance. Um, I was only working 32 hours a week. I was barely paying my bills, but for me, as an artist, if I pay my bills, that's the best alternative. Like, that's amazing for me. I was able to have the part of my brain that was constantly worrying about, will I make enough at this show to pay my bills so that I can pay the next booth fees for the next shows so that I can get more, like it just was an endless, felt like I got on a train and I couldn't get off. And I jumped the fuck off that train, got a job. It was more of like an office job, which is something I've never done before. And I was able to like not take my stress home with me because that was my intention. And then I had like $89 in savings, which is comical a little bit, but it is what it is. But basically, I was fired, and that shunted me onto a new path of like, all right, so all of the work that I've been doing, having myself go back to a slower practice in my studio. I started making pottery that I really loved, and I was like, okay, wonderful, beautiful. After being 10 years into pottery and doing it professionally, like production pottering, production, making pottery on a production level for like 3 or 4 years, I was like, okay, I'm done with pottery, can't look at pottery, don't want to look at pottery. And so I instead, like, I made pottery that, like, was something I'd never made before. I did a completely different type of making, I used different glazes, I drew stuff on the, like, everything about the process was different. I just needed to, like, cleanse my palette. And so then instead of sticking with pottery, I switched over to textile, like fabric, and it's been a whirlwind of a journey. Um, I have been preparing for a holiday show, just a small show in the town that I live, and I I decided to apply with textile instead of just doing ceramics like I have been for the past couple years. In the past 6 months, I've focused very intently on my spiritual practices, on my mental health, and have been actively trying to find, if I stumble upon something, I'm like, oh, there it is. What is it? Let's look at it. Let's turn it upside down, look at both sides of it, and see if we still need that thing. Oh, I don't want to turn you upside down. I would like to keep you. Um, and so with this, like, internal dive, it's felt different than it has previous in my life. Um, I feel like I've considered myself to be a very spiritual person since I was like 15, maybe, I mean, probably younger. Lucid dreaming, all that stuff when I was a kid, and a couple of things happened in my life, and I said, nope, atheism is what I need. Atheism is the only thing. There's no way there's anything out there. over the past 4 years, I would say, I've started diving back into spirituality, started diving back into the mystical, and I don't, it's funny because I thought that I wasn't super mystical, but like anyone who meets me or anyone who knows me is like, just like knows that's what I am, which is funny because I think I was just trying to hide it. The things that I wanted to do, I've always wanted to make clothes, and I don't know, I just, as an artist, pottery kind of sucked me in because it was the first art form that I tried that people wanted to buy, um, because it was more of like a functional product. So it kind of sucked me in because it was like, oh my gosh, I've been trying to sell my art for 10 years and it never really sells. But all of a sudden, I'm making this like pottery and people want it. And so I just kind of dove into that, rode that wave, and it was a wave. It was like a 4 or 5 year wave. It's not done, obviously. Like, I still will do pottery, but it's just, I think I've realized that it can't be the thing that I do for a living. After I took a few months off, I was just sketching clothes and looking back through some old notebooks where I was drawing clothes. I've always had this vision of drawing clothes, and I would say maybe maybe a year, maybe 2 years ago, I had this like vision that I would be selling, and not selling, I would be making clothes that said magic is real. And I was like, all right, I mean, sure. And I think it was maybe a year ago, I decided, fuck it. Atheism is boring. My friend gave me a sticker, I put it on my computer, and I look at it and I laugh every time I look at it. But I'm like, fuck it. Let's go full on. Like, if there is something out there, the universe, spirit, whatever, let's do this. And I started just kind of like as a mantra, reminding myself, magic is real. Magic is real. Like, magic is real. And something about that, I think it took a long time for it to really sink in, obviously, because here I am like a year or two later, finally realizing what that vision meant, what that vision was saying. And now I'm at the point where the selling the art isn't as important to me as the making and the process. And how can I, in the process, make this have more depth? How can I make this have more color? How can I make this have more texture? Like, everything about what I want to be doing is about how can I make this more? How can I express myself more? I didn't realize we were expressing ourselves through our art. I thought we were just making art because it was a compulsion and we were just like doing what we were supposed to be doing. I only in the last year realized, after being an artist for my entire life, I'm almost 30. I'll be 30 in like a month. And after my entire life, I realized we're supposed to be expressing ourselves. And that was like a light switch for me. I don't know why I never realized that before, but yeah, it was just like a light switch. And I decided, okay, well, if I could do anything outside of my time at work, what could I be doing? And so I started finding fabric. I started watching YouTube videos and learning as much as I possibly can. And I'm not good at it. like I spent like 6 months trying to be good at it, and I'm not. And that's totally great, because that just means I have so much more to learn, and I want to be good at it, and I will be good at it. it's just going to take me a little bit longer. And so I started upcycling clothes, which is kind of like something a lot of people are doing right now, but I'm having a lot of fun with it because I'm dyeing the fabric, I'm making screen prints of my art, I'm sewing these like screen prints onto the fabric, I'm like deconstructing garments and putting them back together, and then of course, I'm wearing one right now, and then I'm sewing a little, oh, I don't know if you can see that. I'm sewing a little patch that says magic is real in the corner. And this only happened a couple days ago because I wanted to have magic is real screen printed like all over. I wanted to just like have it be the thing, like the thing. And then I realized like it can be subtle, it can be small, it doesn't need to be like outlandish, but like it's there, so like when you're wearing it, it's just like a little reminder. I'm the kind of person that like everything in my life is named something, so that like my alarm in the morning is like I am confident, abundant, and beautiful, right? So like every morning, that's what my alarm says when I wake up. You know, I have my like Wi-Fi passwords and like Wi-Fi names set as like affirmations. Something about affirmations, like they work, but it takes time. I think I'm realizing like over time, seeing it again and again and again and having it enter the subconscious is when the affirmation takes root. My clothing line and my screen printing is all about positive affirmations, so that you yourself, whenever you put the clothing item on, can remember that affirmation. And then also, when somebody else is reading your shirt, they can add that as a subconscious affirmation to their life. And some people think it's cute, you know, like this tapestry I'm also hand sewing tapestries because I love masochism. I love spending hours on details. So I'm making this, right? I don't know if you can see the whole thing. I'll show you. I'll put a picture in if you can't see it. But I'm making that, right? And some people's reaction to I love watching people's reactions to it because it's like, oh, this would be so cute in my daughter's room. And it's like, oh, totally, like, yes. But also, like, we as a, like, it doesn't need to be, positive affirmations do not need to just be for children. Like, they're so important. And as somebody who, over the past 29 years of my life, I've never felt worthy. I've never felt worthy of love. I've never felt worthy of confidence. I've never felt worthy of praise, of acceptance. And that's something that I still have a lot of trouble with, but I'm not forcing, but just like choosing to be like, okay, what's next? You know? Like, yeah, of course. There are things that yell at me every day, like, you're stupid, you know? But I just say, okay, what's next? And I think that's been the biggest change for me. And I think in preparation for this show, which is happening in, I think, 4 days, it's Wednesday right now, and that show's on Sunday. And I've been working towards this show for around, 6 weeks really. Around 3 months ago, and I immediately started just learning more about sewing and screen printing and making clothes from scratch. And that was like 2.5 months of the journey, and then the last 6 weeks has been me prepping for this show. The first 3 weeks of that was me trying to push myself to get the clothes to the point where they need to be, where they're like good enough to be sold. And I personally didn't have enough confidence in my sewing skills, because I was making the patterns from scratch and sizing from scratch, and I think it was just like too much that I just didn't know how to do it, and I wasn't finding myself able to execute it the way that I wanted to. So I took a pivot and I said, okay, what can I do? I can dye clothes, I can dye fabric, I can make patches, I can screen print, I can draw new patterns. And so I did all of this, and the last 2 weeks has been kind of insane, but my motto is trying to force myself to not get to the point of burnout. So if I'm tired in the studio, I say, okay, what project can I take home and sit on my couch and relax at home and finish? So I've been like taking small projects home, like my little tapestries that I've been hand sewing. And I think that has made the biggest change, because like, yes, I'm still working in the studio until I'm tired, but I'm not working 14-hour days in my studio anymore. And I don't think that anyone should be. I mean, there are times that you have the energy for that, but I've learned that like I don't have the energy for that. And that really puts me out for a couple days when I do that. So it's better to do 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours, 7 days a week. Let's be real. I mean, what am I going to do on a day off? But my days off end up being me at my house for most of the day, and then getting to the studio and doing a couple hours of something, um, because I want to, not because I have to. And I think that we get lost in just trying to sell art, and the whole point of art is the process of making it. And I want to document that process. I am going to be posting this on YouTube, which is probably where you're watching this. And if you're not watching it on YouTube, then you're watching it on my Patreon. In which case, go find each other in the other places. Go ahead and subscribe, to follow my journey and see what comes next. In the Patreon, I post more meditation videos and talk a little bit more about like my spiritual process and practice. And then YouTube is more just like art. And let me know if you want me to talk about anything. I'm learning that I'm an open book. And if I want to be seen, then I have to show up to be seen. So, yeah. Have a beautiful rest of your day, and just know that you are worth it.